Hello, welcome to our channel. Uh, we are the Neo Malthusian channel, or Neo Malthusian Economics channel. We also have a Facebook page, Neo Malthusian Economics. In this welcoming video, I'd like to shortly discuss why we put together this channel and the page, why we have an activity. So basically, what is Neo Malthusian Economics? Well, what is Malthusian Economics? Well, what is economics? So economics is the science that deals with the lack of resources. Right? If there is no lack of resources, then there is no economics. Malthusian economics deals with the ratio between the population and the resources that the population consumes. Neo Malthusian Economics is the same as Malthusian Economics. We deal with the ratio, but we fixed some of the mistakes that Malthus made when he originally proposed his theory in 1790, I think. So who needs this Malthusian, Neo-Malthusian? I mean, we have economics, so who needs Malthusian economics? Well, we have economics, that's true, but there's a spectrum in economics. There is a spectrum of economic ideologies. So we could say that it's a one-dimensional spectrum. So we have what's known as the left, the middle, and the right. And between the left and the right, there is a spectrum of philosophies, of schools, of thought, of economics. So on the leftmost, we have the Marxians, the Marxists, the communists, the socialists, the egalitarianists. And on the right side, at the very edge, we have the capitalists, the neoclassical, the Austrian, the libertarians, free market capitalism or free market economics. And that's basically it. That's all there is in the world of economics. That's it. If you study economics, if you become an economist, if you talk to an economist, you can place them between the far left and the far right. They could be anywhere in between. And they usually take a position. This is what they would say. This is what we are. A Marxian economist would say, this is what I am. I'm a Marxian economist. And the free market economist, that's what he would say. So, but throughout this spectrum of economics, basically, none of the economists, none of the economic schools take into account, basically they don't. We'll come back and we'll see that ultimately they do, but basically they don't really deal with the population size, with the demographics, or with the most important parameter for a Malthusian economist, which is the demographic pressure. They don't deal with it as part of their philosophy. If you talk to a Marxist, he would tell you just have a purely Marxist economy and everything will be fantastic. He would tell you that it doesn't matter. Karl Marx himself hated Malthus. He called Malthus terrible names. So the Marxians, they would say, you don't need Malthusian theory. You don't need to worry about demographic pressure. Just the opposite, Marx basically said somewhere. You can have, the more population you have, the more proletariat you have, the more you have of the working class, which is what's really important. The more the merrier. So that's what a Marxian would not agree to reduce population size, which is why China did not reduce population size when it was a communist state originally. But then they did it. They started population control against the nature of Marxian economics, basically. So a Marxian would say it doesn't matter. You can have as many children as you want. Even more. Have as many children as possible. That's great. No problem. The Marxian economic model will, if you employ it fully, if you're a pure Marxian, if the economy is purely Marxian, then everything will be fantastic. It will all work out. We will all be equal and equally happy, and we'll have communes, and everything will be great. Everybody will be, no one is going to go hungry, and no one is going to be homeless. Everyone will have everything. The world will be a utopia, which is basically, right, this is the argument that economists have. Let's take the two furthest ones. The Marxians on the left and the capitalists on the right. The argument essentially is, what type of an economy will create a utopia? So the Marxians would say, Marxian economics, communism, socialism, egalitarianism, equality. This will create a utopia, a perfect society. Everybody will be as happy as possible. That's the Marxians. On the right-hand side, we have the free market capitalist Austrians, libertarians, Adam Smith, classic neocons, not neocons, but neoclassical economists. So they, what would they say? Basically, they say, free market. I mean, freedom. Let everyone do whatever they want. Complete freedom. So, ultimately, in free market, the libertarians take the free market one step further and they say complete freedom, complete liberty. So, we can murder each other. And the free market concept will take over and will punish the murderers. Society, there is an autonomous mechanism built into society, so if there is no government, the evil will be punished autonomously without a government. So we basically can have, right, there is anarchist libertarians and anarcho-capitalists and anarcho-libertarians. They say zero government. The invisible hand of Adam Smith will manage society perfectly. So theoretically, I'm assuming, this is an assumption, I'm assuming that a capitalist would say, have as many children as you want, right? The government, no one has the right to tell anyone what to do. As long as we don't infringe on each other's space, freedom, we could do whatever. An individual is entitled to do whatever they want. So if you want to have many children, then go ahead and have many, many children. And we have no right, society has no right to tell the individual how many children to have. So this is basically the capitalists, free marketeers. And this is the entire spectrum is between these two ideologies. If you want to jump to the middle of the spectrum, so you would have somewhat of a free market and somewhat of a socialistic state. And that's basically where we are today. Most countries in the world probably define themselves as somewhere in the middle. All right, so what's the problem? So everything is fantastic. Look at the world. The world is phenomenal. No problem. Right? Almost. Well, as you might have noticed, this world is not perfect. Well, it might be perfect for a few of us, but for most of us, this world is a disaster. Not a disaster waiting to happen, it's already a disaster. Right? We have, since 2008, we have a world economic crisis. And since then, it's difficult to say that things have been getting better. Some people want to say things have been getting better. But I would assume, from talking to most people and from hearing many economists, basically everyone agrees ultimately that we're in trouble. We are suffering. Humanity is suffering. And things could be better. So back to the economists. So the Marxian economists on the left, they say we are suffering because we're not egalitarian enough, because we're not helping each other enough. And the economists on the far right, the capitalists, they scream and yell, no, we're suffering because we're too far to the left. We should move more to the right. We should have more freedom of everything. So this is the state of affairs right now. So there is great argument between these schools of thought. And meanwhile, we are in trouble. Many of us are unemployed, and many of us are homeless. You could be watching this video and you could be living in a tent, and your neighbors might be jealous of you that you have a tent. Some of us are living in caves. Some of us are jealous of those living in caves because the governments go into the caves and throw us out of the caves. This is very strange, because if you would have told us 20, 30, 40 years ago, you would have told us, listen, in the 21st century, long after man lands on the moon, there is going to be cities of tents of homeless in the Western wealthy countries. If you would have told this to people, they would have said you're crazy. It doesn't make sense. I mean, the world seemed to have been on a path to affluence, to wealth. How could you make such a dire prediction? Nevertheless, this has come to be. And so we're in trouble. The economists are having a symmetric argument. I mean, we tried. You could say that communism has been tried in Russia, in the Soviet Union, and it failed. This is how, you could say. And, you could say many things, and that capitalism has been tried in the West and it has failed. You could say many things. Ultimately, I think it's in place to say today, and some people have been saying it, that we need something else. That this spectrum from left to right of economics is not enough. It's not any place you find yourself on the spectrum, you're not solving anything. Things are not being solved. There's no solution in sight. Things seem to be getting worse. And this is where Malthusian economics comes in, and Neo Malthusian economics. Let's just I'll just say the conclusion, and we'll discuss this further in further videos. So Malthusian economists would say that from left to right of the spectrum, it has no meaning where you stand. You could be a Marxian and your economy could fail, or it could succeed. And you could be a free marketeer and your economy could fail, or it could succeed. And you could be anywhere in the spectrum and your economy could fail or it could succeed. Actually, it doesn't matter where you stand on the spectrum. Anywhere is just as good as anywhere else. It doesn't matter. And actually, we'll argue this in further videos. There is no, if you really think about Marxian economics and Adam Smith's free market economics, you really cannot find the difference between them. There is no real difference between them. We'll discuss it. We'll show it. So it doesn't matter what economic philosophy you employ, you could either succeed or fail. And this is because it doesn't matter what type of an economic philosophy you employ. The only thing that is important is demographic pressure. Is how many people you have and how much resources you have for them. How many people you have and how many apartments you have for those people. How many people you have and how much food you have for these people. How many people you have and how many jobs do you have available for these people. That's the only question. That's called, this ratio between the population and the resource is called the demographic pressure. And if you have a high demographic pressure, then it doesn't matter what type of an economy you employ, what type of philosophy you employ. It doesn't matter. You don't have enough houses. Right now, you're going to have homeless people. You don't have enough food. Right now, you're going to have hungry people. You don't have enough jobs. Right now, you're going to have unemployment. It doesn't matter what type of an economy you employ. Nothing. It doesn't make any difference. If you want to fix the situation, if you have homeless people, people living in tents, and hungry children, and jobless people wanting to work and contribute to society. If you want to have these things, then you have to start managing the demographic pressure. You have to plan what demographic pressure do you want to have in your country. This is a decision that you have to make a priori, before. And once you decide what type of a demographic pressure you want to have, then you say, okay, I have this much resources, so I can only entertain this much population in order to have a certain demographic pressure. Demographic pressure means the quality of life. It means how big is the meal I can have. The more people are sharing the meal, the less each is going to eat. The more hungry each is going to come out of the meal feeling. If you have a lot of people in one apartment, then they're going to all share this apartment. Their quality of life is going to be as per the demographic pressure. So demographic pressure is quality of life. And this is the only parameter that counts. None of the other parameters count. And you see this. You see that there's countries that are very socialist and they do fantastically well. And there's countries that are socialist that have failed. And there's free markets that have succeeded, and there's free markets that have failed. We'll continue and discussing this idea further. Right now, you can think about it and discuss it with your friends and family. And hopefully we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.